Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nguyen. Thank you for being here today for my thesis presentation. In the next few minutes, I'm going to go through with you to explain my thesis topic research, which is corrosion of hard-facing alloy used in the mining industry. I would like to take the opportunity to say thank you to Mr. Krishnan and Ms. Dara for the support of the project. Before I go into detail of my project, let me give you a brief introduction about the topic of hard facing. Hard facing is a surfacing technique where you deposit a harder, wear-resistant material on top of the softer material to prevent it from wear, impact, or erosion. The technique is used intensively in the mining industry and the mineral processing industry. There are many alloys that can use for hard face. Typically, you can use copper alloys, nickel alloys, cobalt alloys, but the most popular one used in industry is chromium white iron alloys, which I focus my thesis on. Let's take a look at how the material actually deposited on the equipment surface to protect it from wear. There are different techniques that can be used to deposit the hard-facing alloys on the equipment. By the means, it can be welding, it can be thermal spray, or ion implantation. The most popular method that can be found on-site is the manual metal arc welding, or called smaller term is stick welding, due to its flexibility for application online and cost effective. When you deposit the material on like hard facing on the equipment, it doesn't necessary to cover the whole surface of the equipment by hard facing alloy to protect it from wear. In fact, in practice, what they use is deposit the material in terms of patterns. When I say welding pattern, I mean in like grid rock patterns, as you can see from here, or parallel patterns, by dot patterns, or by randomly varied angle patterns. The use of each of the different patterns will depend mostly on the application of the weld and mostly on the particles that's called the wear protection of the equipment and the best combination between wear protection and cost effective. So, all the purpose of hard facing is to protect the material from wear. So why corrosion of this hard-facing material should be important? Actually, if you can have a look at any handbook and manual for hard-facing electrodes, the selection of the electrodes in application on site depends mostly on the hardness of the alloys of the electrodes, and only hardness is provided in the manuals. Corrosion information behavior of these hard-facing alloys is very limited in current literature, even with researchers. Hardness is important for this type of wear-resistant materials because usually a higher hardness material results in a higher wear-resistant behavior. Similarly, if you have a really hard object, if you try to rubber it on the ground with a softer material, the softer material will experience more wear than the harder material. That's just like simple common sense. But actually, in practice, these wear-facing, hard-facing materials using in highly corrosive environment, typically the one that is used in acidic sugarcane juice, where pH level can be around 4.5, and hot caustic solution using in aluminum processing industry or bioprocess, pH level can be as high as 14. The corrosion or the hard-facing alloy using in this industry are chromium hard-facing alloys. The use of chromium in the current literature is well known for its wear-resistant behaviors due to its passive film created on the outside of the material to prevent corrosion attack. Therefore, the corrosion, but actually it has been reported on some of when for the material used in the industry experience corrosion as well. The cost for the industry due to loss of machine failure by wear and corrosion is significant. In the oil sand industry alone, it is in magnitude of several billion of dollars lost due to corrosion of hard. So therefore, the majority of research having done on these hard facing alloys have been focused mainly on the corrosion behavior of these alloys in many different environments. But very little research has been done on the highly alkaline environment, such as the one you invite process. And that's really the whole idea for my thesis. In my thesis, I will investigate the corrosion behavior of 4 different types of hard-facing electrodes. The selection of the electrode to different 3D electrodes because they have different chemical composition and different microstructures, which can be good research for corrosion to get a relation between the property of the materials to the corrosion behavior. In my first part of my thesis, I have focused mainly on the microstructure and harness study of these hard-facing materials. Microstructure and harness study is important because it will explain what is where the distant material, this material will experience, and it can correlate to the other research have been done on this topic. On the screen now, you are seeing the table showing the chemical composition of the electrolyte have been used in my research. As can be seen, they all have a high content of carbon and chromium. The high content of carbon and chromium is very important because it will be beneficial for the formation of a compound named carbide. Carbide is a compound formed between carbon and another element, in this case chromium, which have a much higher hardness compared to the normal margin of materials, and that provides the hardness of the materials. The other addition of manganese and nickel into the materials stabilize the matrix, the austenite matrix to the normal room temperatures. On any addition of the alloying elements such as vanadium, molybdenum, stone will substitute for chromium in the carbide to relay even more like higher hardness carbide compared to chromium. And that really different property in terms of wear resistance and hardness of the materials. The picture at the bottom here showing how the test phase has been done for the microstructure test and hardness test that have been taken from Australian standard. And you can notice that many layers of the hard-facing electrode have been used, and this has been done in the purpose of review the dilution effect of the materials. Dilution is the phenomenon known the composition of the hard-facing alloy is diluted into the base material, in this case carbon steel, where it reviews the chromium content in the alloys, and that review the hardness and change the microstructure of the structure. So the more layer you use in your test piece, the less dilution effect going to be, and you can perform the microstructure and hardness test on the materials. In the next slide is the result taken from the microstructure study I have been done in this semester. These are the classification by Australian standards. The first two digits is showing the microstructure type of the material, where 23, 25, and 34, while the last two digits, so that this one here 60, in the Rockwell hardness of the materials. It can be seen now on the table. Alloy A3 should represent for the higher hardness compared to all the other alloys that we use. Pictures on the left-hand side showing the top layer and bottom layer of the alloys. In general, they are carbide forming only on the top layer of the alloys, which in the form of glass not white block here, and that will be because the less dilution effect of the top alloy comparing to the interfacing layer of the alloys. And that also means that the top layer will have a higher hardness compared to the interfacing layer. And that result have been corresponding to the have been tested by the harness test. Yeah. The test has been done by the top layer and the bottom layer of the alloys, and on the result showing that the top layer of the result for the higher hardness compared to the bottom layer, and alloy A3 actually result in the higher hardness among all the alloys have been used. So in part B, I will perform corrosion test on all the electrodes using electrochemical technique. The solution used to be sodium hydroxide and the sodium hydroxide and sodium chloride. It will, as a test will be done to investigate the relationship between microstructure and chemical composition to the behavior of corrosion of the alloys, and that will be beneficial for the material selection of the industry on site. And that is the end of my thesis presentation. Thank you.
Remember, I'm a civil engineer.
Yeah.
Hardness is a surface property, yeah?
Yep.
So why to measure it, you have to penetrate the surface. You're not measuring something underneath the surface when you measure a surface property. That's always confused me.
Actually, when you measure hardness on this material, you have to think about why this measure hardness at first place. You measure the hardness because, as I explained before, higher hardness result in a better wear resistance of the material, and only the hot outside surface is actually in contact with the other surface, when it actually in a wear situation, when you have to make for contact in the surface. So you only care about the hardness of the surface only. You don't actually need to worry too much about the hardness of the bottom surface.
Just to follow up on that,
Yeah.
how thick does the outer layer should be for it to be effective?
How thick?
Yeah. Because according to you, if it's only a surface, then you can have a monolayer.
Actually, I don't really know how actually they don't actually come up with like what is the thickness of your half facing layer should be. Actually, all the manuals only said that try to reduce the dilution of the material as much as it can. And usually, because the material is not cheap, so they only deposit one layer.
So it's one
Yeah,
layer.
but yeah, it depends on application. When you need a really high hardness for that application, you might need to deposit more material, like 2 or 4 layers, 2 to 3, I think, layers.
So,
Correct me if I'm wrong, and I might miss something, but I don't think you've done any actual testing yet, is that right?
Yeah, all the corrosion tests will be performed in part B, where you use the electrochemical test to evaluate for corrosion of these hard-facing alloys.
Who's going to make your test pieces?
Or already have it done.
That's already done.
Yeah, this one here. Not only for test B.
So
So that's a cross-sectional area of the test B. And the area I'm going to test for corrosion will be on the top layer only. And I explained before, you want to test the alloys or the corrosion of the material of the hard-facing alloys. Top layer is a layer that has less effect the dilution, and that's going to reveal the most accurate result to your
That's
corrosion
correct,
test.
but it should be hard all the way through from what I know of hard facing.
Sorry?
It should be hard all the way through from what I know of hard facing. But who did make your samples as a matter of interest?
Oh, this one here has been, I think, it from river study done by Tran and Marita, and this one has been done in my professor.
Ah, so it's a theoretical study at this stage.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, he actually we deposited. He got it.
This one here, I did that like before myself.
You welded it.
Or I asked before with technician in B11 to do it. Because the actual, this hard-facing electrode require,
Yes,
like I
know.
said, industrial.
I know, that's
Yeah.
what I'm asking. Who made them?
Yeah, and only Darwin had the machine to do it, so I
Anybody
had
can
asked
do
them
it.
to do it anyway. So.
Raw, anybody can deposit this. He just
I can't
just
weld.
one layer. He just
Huwag kang magulo. Ano?
Did anyone have any questions?
I'll ask you a question. Why do you need to have a martensite matrix compared to an austenite?
All right, so austenite will be a more ductile matrix compared to martensite, and usually they have a ductile material in a hard facing material to take the impact in a wear situation. Imagine like, of course, a higher hardness below in a better wear resistant material, but high hardness also respond for the high brittle capability material. In an impact situation, it just fracture the whole material if you have too high hardness. Therefore, the ductile matrix will absorb some of that properties. So it's like a compromise between hardness and ductile material. And you have to have martensite different to austenite. I think there are one research I mentioned that in the forming of cavitation inside pipe. So the thermal shock when the bubble actually collapse.
Okay, go ahead.